Good morning. Back for a ramble. And this one's gonna be weird. This one might be tough. I wanted to talk about, ramble about, grief and kind of how unique it is. I'm really fascinated. I mean, all human experiences are inherently unique, though they don't feel like it sometimes. Sometimes it feels really unique, and it turns out that the thing you're going through, 4,100 people have gone through today. And other times it's like, oh, everyone must feel this way. And it's like, no, you're entitled to your individual feelings. And I think it just depends kind of on how serious the issue is. But I'm constantly amazed at how unique grief is. 1 year ago today, my dad died. And I've got several friends who've also gone through loss, who experience it so differently than I do, which is kind of beautiful, really, to be reminded that each experience is unique. But it also makes it really tough to give, I don't even really mean advice, although a lot of people will give you advice. They will give you a lot of unrequested advice. Oh boy. And they mean well. But every experience is so different. I love my father dearly, and we were very close as adults. But I had a very long time to prepare myself for him to pass. And the last couple of months before he died, he wasn't the same. He was grumpy and sharp and miserable. He was always exhausted, and he didn't have any levity, which was always my favorite thing about him. We used to make each other laugh at the dumbest things. Humor was definitely the way I bonded with my father, because our sense of humor, while being completely strange, was exactly the same, it seemed. So while he and I would be cracking up at something, just tears rolling down our faces from laughing, my mother and brother were looking at each other like, oh my God, what? And so it felt so important. And those last few months, he didn't have any of that. He was robbed of it. And so his death, while painful and very sad, was also, I feel like no one's allowed to say this, it was a relief. For him, I'm sure. But for us as well. Because I didn't have to watch him be so miserable. I could rest in the knowledge that he was peaceful somewhere. And so while it was sad, and I've cried a lot, certainly, I have not been swallowed in a deep pit of grief. And so when I see my friends who have really had a lot of depths of grief, I feel weird. I feel there's these weird twangs of shame almost for not being more sad. Because it's like, well, other people are sad and I did love him, shouldn't I be sad? Well, here's where we get that beautiful uniqueness. I'm not sad. I miss him a lot, but the person I miss had been gone a long time, and he knew that. And we had talked a lot about he didn't ever want to be the person who was just holding on by a thread or on life support or anything like that. And this is all the uniqueness. I'm I'm not ever going to tell someone else how to grieve. Because I can't. I wouldn't dare. Very well-meaning, wonderful, loving people tried to tell me how to grieve. Bless them. But it really is truly unique to your experience, to your relationship to the person, to your personality, to where you are as a person when it happens. So when friends of mine lose someone, golly, look at this face. When friends of mine lose someone, I try to focus on just sitting with them, just showing up, answering a question if I'm asked, and if not, just kind of patting their hand and being like, I'm here. Because the thing that really helped me in those first weeks were the people that showed up. My best friend of 2.5 decades came up to the hospital. We went to the hospital in the middle of the night. I got to the hospital about 1 a.m. My mother had been there for a while before she was able to call me. And we sat there for several hours. They stabilized him, but he wasn't going to pull through. So we basically let him be machine alive for long enough for my brother to drive down from Dallas. And so it reached a point where it was like, nothing's going to change at this point. You may as well go get some sleep. Ha. Funny thing that. Because part of your body is so exhausted that sleep is almost unavoidable. And the other part of your body couldn't imagine it. Resting. But I got some sleep. Went back the next morning and then spent the entire day at the hospital. We called my brother in the morning. He had to move some things. He drove down, and then we didn't do it the second he got down here. We took some time. So I was at the hospital all day, and my best friend showed up in the morning. She brought me coffee. She brought me something to eat for breakfast. She brought something I could later eat for lunch if I got hungry. And she brought a book. And she sat in the waiting room. Not in the family waiting room with us where it was very crowded full of people from our church. Out in the public waiting room. And she said, I'm going to be sitting here. When you need me, I'm here. When it gets too wild in there, I'll be your quiet place. When it gets too somber, I can be the person you laugh with. I'm here. Use me if you need me. And she just sat out there all day. And I wasn't even with her most of the day. I was in the back with all the church people and all the crowd and cracking people up back there. Oh man. I've never been funnier than the day my dad died. I had people in stitches. People were just the mirth. And he would have wanted that. He would have loved that. Because remember, the first 3 letters of funeral are F-U-N. But whenever I needed a quiet minute, whenever it got too wild or too precious back there, I excused myself and I went and sat with her. And sometimes we were quiet. Sometimes we laughed. Sometimes we talked seriously. Sometimes we talked about absolutely nothing. Shoes and books and things like that. And she just stayed there the whole day. Like a rock. And I don't think I have ever been served like that before or since. I don't imagine I ever will be. That gift was immeasurable. So simple. But immeasurable. And then I remember being really amazed at some of the people that showed up for his service. People who'd never met him, but who knew I needed them. About 6 of my 31 sisters showed up that I was not expecting. And I sat in the back. They all sat together because they didn't know anybody else but me. But they showed up. And that meant more to me than a lot of other things that people thought was going to make a big impact. That simple act of showing up. So, I guess my point is, if your grief is deep and dark and heavy and seems like it will never go away, I'm here with you. And if your grief is occasional and sneaks up on you in the most random moments, I'm here with you. And if you know someone who's going through something like that, show up. Bring coffee. Bring a bottle of wine if it's appropriate. Bring a sandwich. Bring a book. Just show up. Honestly, sometimes the less you say, the better. Just show up, sit with them and say, if you want to talk, I will talk. If you don't, I won't. I'm just going to be sitting right here. Again, I don't want to speak to anyone else's experience because it's all very unique. But I have a feeling, that is pretty universal. The power of showing up. Show up for someone today. It can be easy, it can be quick. It can be very important.